Good day and welcome to our session, Water Security Driven by Industrial Revolution 4.0. Thank you, colleagues, and thank you for your attendance this morning. Just a few announcements on webinar considerations. Firstly, attendees are reminded to ensure your volume is turned up on your device. Ensure that you've got a stable internet connection. You will ensure the streaming and audio will run smoothly. You can ask questions via the question panel. Now, the question panel is located in the Go-To Webinar Control panel, which is located on the right-hand side of your screen. Right. The chat function is not available to attendees. It's reserved for the webinar organizers and panelists to communicate with each other. But please ask your questions on the Go-To Control panel that is located on the right-hand side of your screen. A recording of the presentation will be made available on the Institute's YouTube channel, SAIEE TV. The recording will also be made available on the SAIEE website. Now, this is in the events drop-down menu in the section Past Events and Webinars. This page is updated regularly, so ensure you check back as often as possible for new uploads, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel for more uploads. A certificate of attendance will be issued a few weeks after this webinar. We will apply for a CPD validation number from EXA, and once we receive this, we will advise you accordingly. So thank you for your attendance this morning, and let me start with the program going forward. We have firstly on our agenda a welcome message from Mrs. Prudence Madiba. She's our Institute Council Committee Chair for Technology, Knowledge and Leadership, and I will introduce to you now Mrs. Madiba. Mrs. Madiba is with Eskom. She's a senior manager at Eskom, and she's a professional engineer, a fellow of the Institute, and also a member of the EXA Council. She holds a BSc Electronic Engineering degree together with postgraduate qualifications from UKZN, WITS, and University of Pretoria. So let us welcome Prudence Madiba to give us her welcome message. And thank you, Prudence, and to the Institute of Electrical Engineers for hosting this webinar on behalf of the participants, being the University of Johannesburg, on an assignment for the Water Research Commission. So I'm handing you over to Prudence. Prudence Madiba, you are now the presenter.
Thank you very much, Prof. Naidoo. A special welcome to everyone this morning for joining us, and especially to all our presenters that I have lined up for today. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you this morning on behalf of the Institute of the South African Electrical Engineers. As already mentioned, I am the chairperson for the Technology and Knowledge Leadership Committee. Our mandate as the committee is to lead in technology dissemination and also organizing involvement in standardization issues, review regulatory and policy activities, and also reviewing industry association activities. To achieve those, we've got a number of technical committees and chapters and sections that might be of interest to you. So please, after this, do take a moment to look at the Institute website, and also, most importantly, to see how you can actively participate in some of the work activities that we do. Thank you for that. And also, just for today, this is one of our key ways of us as a committee to ensure that we share the knowledge, we bring together different minds from different societies, from the academics, from the industry, and also across the borders of the SADC region as we bring knowledge to share to all of us. And what better way today as we bring issues that affect the food industry, electrical industry, and bringing all those knowledge to help us as we move forward and taking the new direction using fourth industrial evolution in driving the issues in the water industry. And you'll also, I think, agree with me to say, as engineers, key to our role is making sure that as we deliver all these technologies, we ensure that we protect the environment and we protect the public. And protecting them is in ensuring that we provide a sustainable economy, but ensuring that in doing that, the food security, the shelter security, and with the evolution of technology, now we're talking about data and information security, and all those are brought together as technologies converge. And water is at the key of ensuring that we can supply any of those industries. So I'm looking forward to today for sharing and building knowledge as we challenge each other to use the fourth industrial revolution, to use the convergence of technologies from different sectors, bringing all the technical aspect that you have learned from different sectors to improve the water sector. And I'm hoping that after all this discussion today, as we bring this knowledge, we can come up with a position paper that drives the water security issues forward, and we can present this as part of the contribution from us as the Institute, partnering with our UJ counterparts to make sure that we drive the fundamental to the delivery of services to our community, and water being at the center of this as the main issue that we drive forward. And we can also bring out these lessons not only to the water sector, but saying that we've got challenges in the electricity sector. How do this knowledge now, as we gain momentum to support the water industry, how do we bring these issues back and support other industries? Today we are talking about lessons from the food industry. How do we take those to strengthen the water industry? But take it outside and say, from the central part, being us in South Africa, how do we support the SADC region and bring that out? When we talk about the electricity issues and bringing the knowledge from how the South African power pool is ran, how do we bring those lessons back and say, with the challenges that we have in the electrical industry today, how do we strengthen that knowledge? How do we use 4IR to then support the water industry, support the food industry, support the electrical industry? So I'm looking forward to hearing how we strengthen this knowledge and build this knowledge together, using today as the focus in the water industry, bring those topics together. I'd also like to take this opportunity before I hand over to Prof to also thank our sponsors for today. This is Ross Asotron for sponsoring this event, and looking forward to working with them in the future. Please also remember, take opportunity to view the SAIEE website, participate. We're talking about water today, but we've got a lot of interesting sections and chapters that you can also participate in and join us as a member, and most importantly, join us as a contributor to help us bring the technologies and grow this electrical engineering space for the future. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you. Colleagues, thank you. And thank you to Mrs. Madiba for that welcome address. Colleagues, I'm your moderator for today, and I'm part of the team at the University of Johannesburg. So I'll set the scene for you in terms of our workings. I'll come off this particular show. I'll bring up another presentation and I'll share that with you now. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you. Colleagues, the quick key question we've asked ourselves at the university and in the industry and at the institute, given a rapidly changing climate with increasing human activity, can we reset our thinking in providing water and sanitation security for all? And the emphasis is here on reset. And you'll hear a lot about this word reset as we go into the future. Can we deliver water and sanitation services to all affordably, with resilience and sustainability, in synchronism with nature? And I think those are the questions we are asking ourselves. And a potential answer lies in the space of Industrial Revolution 4.0. In this space of big data, markets, cash flows, can we find a working model that will deliver for us sustainably water and sanitation security for all? That's what's brought us to this topic. It's a desktop study commissioned by the Water Research Commission, and it's entitled Water Security Driven by IR 4.0. And we are looking and exploring the path, the roadmap towards developing a new water pool market model. It's a part contribution to the UN SDG 6, and we want to make our little attempt at delivering on this agenda, which is a global agenda. Big data, markets, and cash flow. This first idea came from the Southern African Power Pool, established in 1995 and operating very, very successfully. Southern African Power Pool, it hosts the market platform for competitive and bilateral trading and dispatch of electrical energy across SADC. Again, the emphasis on energy security for the nations of SADC consists of financial and physical products and services. And a copy of the slide from my colleague's presentation shows the daily market prices in US cents per kilowatt hours. And you could see the range for peak, standard, and off-peak. Can we enjoy the same in the water space? The second idea on big data, markets, and cash flows emanated from the city of Johannesburg, the fresh produce market, established in the 1800s. And today operated successfully by the Joburg Market State-Owned Company Limited. And we'll share with you some of the results here from the Joburg Market. The market hosts the platform for both competitive and bilateral trading and dispatch of fresh produce across South Africa and SADC. Consists of financial and physical products and services. And again, here's some statistics from my colleague's presentation showing the turnover trends in rands. And this is for the last good few years, and showing it approaching almost 10 billion rands in annual turnover. This is on potatoes and tomatoes and onions. The similarity: Southern African Power Pool does not own the electrical energy or the power stations or the networks, does not take any ownership for an accountability or responsibility for capital, debt, operating cash, for the provision or operating maintenance of the infrastructure. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But every day trades, participates, and takes in its market commission, today exceeding $1 million annually. At the Joburg Market, same picture. Does not own the fresh produce or the farms or the trucks or the distribution networks. Doesn't take any responsibility for the ownership, accountability, or for the debt or operating cash for the fresh produce or for the infrastructure associated with the fresh produce. But daily takes its share of the trade. Today, turnover approaching 10 billion, and the commission to the city now approaching almost 500 million annually. That's the similarity we want to capture and transfer across to the market, water pool market model. So today we're going to share with you two case studies. Case study one from the Southern African Power Pool, and I have two of my colleagues who will share that with you. Mziyanda, who's the market surveillance manager for the Southern African Power Pool. He will share with you the workings of the power pool and its latest performance. And then Francis Masawi, an old colleague and founding member of the Southern African Power Pool. Francis is based in Harare, so he'll join us from Zimbabwe, and he will share with us the thoughts behind establishing the Southern African Power Pool and how it was brought about and its performance. Thereafter, we'll go on to the case study for the city of Johannesburg's Joburg Market, and we have two colleagues who will share with us their experiences. Firstly, Rami Kobela. He's the specialist in the Group Strategy Division, Office of the Mayor, City of Johannesburg, and Rami will share with us high-level picture from the city's perspective. And then Jan Mocke, also an old past colleague who served as chairman of the Joburg Market Board together with myself. And Jan Mocke will share with us his experiences. And he was also an employee at Joburg Market, so he has deep experiences on the workings of the platform there. And Jan will share with us the structure, the reasons for the market and its performance. So we'll get those two deep case studies. Thereafter, I have two colleagues from our Institute for Intelligence Systems, Dr. Herman Myburgh and Dr. Uchwe Onkonkwo. They will share with us the state of art in IR 4.0 technologies, and they would present for us. Dr. Uchwe in particular will give us a conceptual model for a water pool market. And we'll conclude thereafter with an open session. We'll take your questions and comments, and we look forward to your continued participation as we develop this chapter going forward. So colleagues, thank you from my side. I'm going to bring on board, I'll end now and bring on board my first presenter. Let me bring back the screen. And I will now go to Mziyanda, Mziyanda. I'm going to introduce you, Mziyanda. Let me go to screen show. There you are. Mziyanda, my good friend, working for the Southern African Power Pool. He's the Market Surveillance Manager at Southern African Power Pool. Mziyanda has over 19 years experience. And again, grew up in Eskom in the private sector, and today is the Market Surveillance Manager at SAPP. And his primary responsibility is to ensure that SAPP markets operate efficiently and provides confidence to all the stakeholders and the customers. And again, it reflects on the integrity of the market to give a true reflection of a fair and competitive interaction between the forces of demand and supply. And I think very shortly, we ourselves in South Africa is going to be entering this scenario. So Mziyanda, we look forward to your presentation. You are currently the chairperson of the Southern African Power Pool Market Subcommittee, and you also launched the day-ahead market when it commenced trading in 2009. So over to Mziyanda, and we look forward to your presentation. Mziyanda, I'm bringing you on board. There we are. Thank you. First class, you all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the introduction, and thank you very much for the interest in the Southern African Power Pool and inviting us today to give a brief overview of the Southern African Power Pool, as well as to give a brief market update in terms of the various markets that we operate. Just trying to get the controls working. Thank you. In terms of my presentation, I will talk briefly about the Southern African Power Pool. I will then give a short market update in terms of the performance of the various markets that we run at the Southern African Power Pool. Coming into the vision of the Southern African Power Pool, ours is to facilitate the development of a competitive electricity market across the Southern Africa region. And we believe that we are well on our way in achieving this objective, as I will shortly present to you. Sometime in the future, we're hoping that we'll be able, as a region, to provide the end user a choice of electricity supply. More importantly, also, we are hoping that we can provide an environment where our region is a preferred destination for investments by energy-intensive users. And lastly, ours is to ensure that through our operations, we take care of the socio-economic factors, including also the impact that we have on the environment. I'm now coming into the governance of the Southern African Power Pool. The Southern African Power Pool was established in 1995 through the signing of the Intergovernmental Memorandum of Understanding by the SADC member countries, and this is what brought the SAPP into existence. And this document was revised in the year 2006 to take into account developments in the electricity sector. Secondly, we have the Inter-Utility Memorandum of Understanding. This was signed by the traditional members of the Southern African Power Pool, which were typically the state-owned utilities in the various member countries. And this document brought about the management of the Southern African Power Pool. It was also revised in the year 2007 to be in line with market developments. We then have a document we call the Agreement between Operating Members, and this is the document which is contractual in nature that outlines the obligations as well as the benefits to the SAPP members. It sets out the technical schedules. It also sets out commercial terms of transacting within the Southern African Power Pool. At a more operational level, we've got the operating guidelines, which sets out the various codes of operating the interconnected system between the various member countries. We then have the market guidelines document, which governs the operations of the various markets that I will talk about shortly. And lastly, bringing into existence the Southern African Power Pool Coordination Center that is based in Harare, Zimbabwe. We have the SAPP Coordination Center Constitution that then brings about the management of the secretariat function in Harare, Zimbabwe. In terms of our reporting structure, we report through our executive committee to the SADC Directorate of Infrastructure and Services. We are an energy agency of SADC, therefore we report through to the SADC Directorate of Infrastructure and Services. We have an executive committee that typically consists of the chief executive officers and managing directors of our members. Below that, we have a management committee that typically consists of operational directors, transmission directors, that is responsible for overseeing the operations of the institution. We then have the various subcommittees that are responsible for various aspects. From the left to the right, we have the planning subcommittee responsible for both grid and generation expansion plans for the region. We then have the operating subcommittee that is primarily responsible for ensuring that the interconnected system on a daily basis is run efficiently. We then have the coordination center board that is charged for oversight of the Southern African Power Pool Coordination Center, which is the secretariat function based in Zimbabwe, Harare. We also have the environmental subcommittee that looks at all the environmental related matters in terms of our operations as well as our projects. And last but not least, the newest and the fastest growing subcommittee being the markets subcommittee that is charged for developing the various power markets that we have at the Southern African Power Pool. This slide, I will not spend much time on it. However, it just gives a view of our current membership as the SAPP. At the top, number 1 to 12, that's the traditional members that would have been there right from the beginning, the state-owned utilities from the various countries in the SAPP. From number 13 to 17, we've got the different categories that have in recent years joined the SAPP, such as the Copperbelt Energy Corporation, which is a transmission company in Zambia, Lusemfa Hydro Power Company, an IPP in Zambia as well as Ndola Energy Corporation, which is also an IPP in Zambia. And obviously we have Hydro Kaurabasa and the Mozambique transmission companies as well. In terms of the progress we have made as a SAPP in developing our markets, we have now recently revised our membership categories into 3 membership categories that people can apply, or those that are interested in the SAPP can apply to become members of the SAPP and participate in the regional trade. Number 1, we've got the National Power Utility member, which is meant to recognize the members entrusted by governments for the ownership of the SAPP. These would typically be your state-owned power utilities that were always there from the beginning of the pool. Secondly, we've got an operating member category, which is meant for members whose operations have an impact on the operations of the SAPP grid. Here we're looking at independent power producers that have got a minimum single generating unit of about 300 megawatts that are capable of operating an automatic generation control. And last but not least,
good day, colleagues. I think we have a technical challenge.
Prof, I'm checking if I'm still audible.
Yeah, okay, you've come through. You broke up for a while. Please proceed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Prof. I'm now turning to give an update in terms of the markets that we run. In the Southern African Power Pool, currently we run a month ahead market. We also run a week ahead market. We then run a day ahead market where members can trade themselves into balance a month in advance, a week in advance, going into a day in advance. And we also run a market called the intraday market where members can trade themselves into balance as close as possible to real time up to an hour before the hour of delivery. In this slide, we are looking at the energy that has been matched in the market versus the energy that has been traded in the market going back a number of years. The red blocks are showing what has been matched and potentially could have been traded in the market versus the green blocks which show what was actually matched. And the difference between those is transmission constraints in the main. We still have transmission constraints in the network, even though the green blocks have increased over time, owing to the confidence that members have gained in the market, opting to trade in the market rather than to trade in the bilateral contracts. And also around the year 2016-17, we introduced, that's the year we introduced the month ahead market as well as the week ahead market, which then provided members an opportunity for themselves to balance themselves using the market as opposed to short-term bilateral contracts. And obviously in the current financial year 2020-21, the lower volumes there depicting the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic as well as the respective country lockdowns that resulted in lower demand. In this slide, we're showing the development trends in terms of bilateral trading contracts. We had seen a general decline in bilateral trading contracts as members were picking up trading in the day-ahead market or the competitive markets. In the year 2019-2020, we had an increase in bilateral contracts trading, and this was due to the drought that was experienced in the region, impacting the hydro generators, where members opted to revert back to bilateral contracts to secure their positions as the market had lower offers due to the drought. Here we are showing the share of the competitive market when compared to the bilateral trading market, and we are encouraged that over time the share of the competitive market has seen an increase as members have been choosing the market over the bilateral contracts due to the market developments and the security that the market has been providing in various aspects, be it securing the energy itself, being the financial aspects, the quick turnaround times that the market has in clearing and paying invoices between buyers and sellers. This is the same picture, just confirming month on month the market share of the competitive market when compared to the bilateral. Obviously, we will still have bilateral contracts for a long time to come. However, the role of the market is also increasingly becoming important for our members to balance their portfolios. In this slide, we are showing a comparison between the traded volumes year on year between 2019-20 versus 2020-21. And obviously the impact of the respective country lockdowns due to COVID-19 coming through as we've been trending below what we traded last year in the market. Here we are showing just a feel of the price development from the inception of the market in 2009, 2010. This is how the average market clearing prices has developed over time. And coming into this current financial year, beginning April 2019, 2020, 21, 21, comparing against the previous year in terms of the price development, you will also see that our prices have been trending lower than they were in the previous financial year, except for the month of November 2020, where the price spiked. And this was due to a number of planned and unplanned outages that then constrained the supply side of the market and resulted in higher prices for that particular month. This slide has been shown already. This is just showing again a further breakdown of the average market clearing price between time of use. And again, you can see during the month of November 2020, the price spike that mainly affected the peak price due to shortages in our respective markets as a result of breakdowns that occurred during that month. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much, Chair. The idea was just to give an overview, a quick overview of where we are in terms of the market developments, and we are available to take questions as well as provide any further detailed information that could be required. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. First class, first class. Thank you. Thank you, Mziyanda. Mziyanda. And we look forward to the questions a little later on. Thank you. Let me bring on colleague. I'm going to change the presenter now. I'm going to bring on my colleague Francis Masawi to follow on that presentation from Southern African Power Pool. Francis Masawi, welcome. Let me introduce Francis. Francis Masawi, a founding member of the Southern African Power Pool. I recall those early days when I met Francis, 1994, as we got the South Africa readmitted to the international community and especially to the frontline states. Francis is an independent consultant in energy and information logistics. He's got his degrees from University of Zimbabwe. He's also done some postgrad work there. And he's virtually worked across Southern Africa, Eastern and Southern Africa. He's worked widely for the World Bank, USAID, German government, European Union, and also Motreco. You didn't include Motreco. Francis was general manager as we launched the Mozambique Transmission Company. And Francis has acquired his specialist knowledge and information across the energy markets in which demand, supply, and energy, the nexus of energy and water come together to supply the goods and services that society requires. And it's in this space that we want Francis to bring his experience to the forefront and guide us as we launch the water pool market. And you'll see, notice Francis takes it a one step further. He says, for the entire region and on to continental Africa. So over to Francis, and we look forward to your presentation. I'm going to switch over now to Francis as the presenter. Panelists, there we go. I'm coming off. Perfect. You all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I am going to be sharing with the colleagues the lessons that we can learn from the Southern African Power Pool. So the first item is why the Southern African Power Pool case study. As creatures of habit, we always try to do what someone else has done. So I'm going to share with you the fact that the SAPP is a homegrown living example of a regional integration and cooperation from which lessons can be learned for the Southern African water pool. What were the motivations for the creation of the SAPP? The Kariba Dam annual average water levels from the period 1964 to 2008 indicate that the period of greatest concern for hydropower production was from 1982 to 1998, and water utilization against the rule curve in red shows that the worst year was 95-96, where the water levels dropped about 1 meter from the minimum operating level. In 2018-19, the water levels dropped almost in a straight line from 485 to 478 because the water rule curve was not complied with. Hydropower production was and is still threatened by hydrology on the Zambezi River Basin, and the problem needed an immediate solution then. Before 1996, the power utilities in the DRC, Zambia, and Zimbabwe interconnected were 41% hydropower based in 1991 when the problem started to appear. The southern power utilities were 93% coal-based and 6% nuclear, and discussions centered around how to solve the hydrological problems. This resulted in the creation of the Southern African Power Pool with the, again, the diagram that Mziyanda has indicated, with the 4 agreements that he also explained. I'm only going to be indicating that the agreement between operating members and the operating guidelines are living documents which are reviewed from time to time as new information becomes available. However, the absence of an autonomous regional energy regulator for the SAPP is a challenge that needs to be addressed. In 1996, the SAPP was created. The SAPP as an electrical power system was created with the interconnection of 9 countries as shown in the attached diagram. However, the suppliers and users of the energy are not yet market participants in the markets, which are monopolized by the state-owned power utilities. As at end of 2018, this interconnected power network generation mix became thermal at 61% and hydro 21% as the major contributors. But as Mziyanda has said, the transmission constraints are affecting the electricity trading. The members of the Southern African Power Pool, operating members, non-operating members, have been shown. Now I'm going to go into the SAPP performance. I think you will agree that bringing together for a common purpose different nationalities and languages is a massive achievement by itself. There was a reduction in operating reserves for operating member, which reduced operating costs. As you saw from the market presentation, the competitive market reached 32% and on the increase. Joint resolution of power quality problems, grid emissions factor approved by the UNFCCC, SAPP plan for expansion plans, and new membership application guidelines. However, as I have stated again, the challenges are to do with the absence of an autonomous regional energy regulator, the admission of users and suppliers as participants in the energy markets, transmission constraints resolution, the low standards of energy availability leading to load shedding that we all live under, energy security, poor quality, and affordability due to the single buyer model that is applied. There are only 3 state utilities that are viable in the SAPP as of 2019, and project implementation is indeed a very big challenge. And the vision that you saw from Mziyanda will still need to be achieved. What are the lessons that we learn from the case study? The knowledge, the skills, and motivations exist in the region to address the problems of water security. But the biggest problem I think this came out in the National Water Security Framework of South Africa. Implementation is a serious problem. Water, like energy, is a similar production processes, delivery processes. The only difference is that water can be stored, whereas electrical energy cannot be stored. Therefore, water shortages that we are experiencing in many parts of Southern Africa, which led to the creation of the Southern African Power Pool, present sufficient motivation for the creation of a water pool. Now, looking at participants, I think the public sector is perhaps best placed to provide cross-border water infrastructure in the same way they provide roads, railways, etc. On the other hand, the private sector, mainly comprised of suppliers and users, is best placed perhaps to participate in energy markets. And I use the Nord Pool in Europe as a good example. There are many river basins on the continent of Africa, with a number in Southern Africa, like the Congo, the Zambezi, Limpopo, Nkomati, Umbeluzi, Maputo, and Orange, being of main interest for the Southern African water pool. There are major hydropower stations on the Congo River. You've heard about the Inga, the Zambezi River, the Orange River in Lesotho Highlands, Kariba and Kabora Bassa hydropower stations, including Kafue Gorge, Iteji, and others, are on the Zambezi River Basin, and there are plans to build more power plants, hydropower plants on the Limpopo River Basin. There are 8 riparian countries that formed the Zambezi Watercourse Commission. These 8 countries are all members of SADC, and the ZAMCOM itself was created in 2004 and is based in Harare. Coming to recommendations for this particular, coming from this case study, the Southern African water pool, driven by Industrial Revolution 4, is a doable project. And I think we need to maybe just look at measurable results that should come out of it. Short-term outputs of water reliability, medium-term outcomes of sustainable social and economic development and growth, and long-term impacts of a high quality of life for all. ZAMCOM, with experience at SADC level on shared water courses, could be used to expand to include river basins of DRC, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, and South Africa. And then the new entity implements the Southern African water pool to include other resources. The challenges that are facing the SAPP, and this webinar occurred at the right time when there's threat of load shedding. I think those problems need to be addressed timeously, and the SAPP can then become a role model for the water pool, as the 2 pools share a lot in common. The Southern African water pool could then be a role model for continental-wide water pool, like the proposed African single energy market on the continent. Therefore, your support in ensuring the success of the Southern African water pool would be highly appreciated, and I thank you very much for your attention.
First class, first class. Thank you, Francis. Thank you very much. Let me bring back the screen. Thank you. I'm now going to introduce my colleague from the city of Johannesburg, and we're going to change gears a little bit and go to food security. And welcome to my colleague, Rami Kobela. Rami is a specialist in the Group Strategy Office of the Executive Mayor, City of Johannesburg. Rami holds several qualifications: bachelor's, BCom honors, master's, and he's got his master's from the Wits School of Governance. So very much a man of government there. He works as a specialist partner and peer learning for the University of City of Joburg's Group Strategy, Policy and Coordination and Relations Department. And his role is to leverage the city's partnership with the higher education institutions, that's WITS, UJ and UNISA, located in Johannesburg, to enhance service delivery performance through evidence-based policy making. Excellent, excellent work, Rami. We welcome you, and let me give you the floor, Rami, for you to do your presentation. Over to Rami Kobela. There we are. Let me come off.
Good morning, everyone. So my role will be to provide an overview of the city of Johannesburg. And I'll be representing the city because we all...
Rami, we're just missing your presentation. It came and went off. Just, if you backtrack one step, thank you. Thank you, Rami, and put your webcam on. You're almost there. We can see you. Not yet. You're coming on. Perfect, perfect. We can see you and we've got your presentation. Thank you, Rami. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll be representing the city of Joburg because we own the Joburg Food Fresh Produce Market, and we also oversee the city's climate action plan, which is a response to climate change, and it sides in the water security and the fourth industrial revolution, as we also have ambitions to become a smarter city. So I will start with the profile of the city of Johannesburg. So in terms of the economy, you know, the city of Joburg hosts a lot of multinational corporations within its borders, and it's also the largest, boasts the largest economy in terms of economic output. It's made up of a very diverse economy, which consists of finance, IT, real estate, and logistics sectors. So it's almost more normally preferred as a foreign direct investment destination. In terms of the human and social elements, the population that reside in Joburg represent about 10% of South Africa's overall population, and it's made up of a fairly young population. So the demographic profile is made up of young people, and continues to attract migrants from all over the country. As we know, Gauteng is the smallest province geographically, but it's also the most populous. Infrastructure-wise, we do fairly well compared to other cities. And then we have a very large middle class, which creates demands for residential and commercial properties and developments across the city. Because we're a large city, we also need public transport, we need high-speed internet. But having a large middle class also allows us to generate a lot of income to fund development. In terms of governance, I've spoken to the issue of having a larger economy. So most multinational corporations are based here in Johannesburg, and even those who want to venture into the African markets. And that's because we always try to make it easier for business to establish in our locality, and also live here because we have a relatively lower cost of living. That's affordable to live here, and that's according to the Economist Intelligence Unit. In terms of the institution which runs the city of Johannesburg, we have council. So that's chaired by the speaker, who has supported by a number of Section 79 committees which oversees the number of activities of the city, such as economic development, health, and so forth. And their job is to oversee the executive, led by a mayor and his MMCs or members of the mayoral committee. In turn, in the administration, we'll have departments. I belong to the Kobela department. We have economic development, environment, health, and so forth. And under departments, we'll also have entities such as your Joburg food market, your Joburg water, your city power, and so forth. So those fall under the city manager, who's supported by the board to oversee the activities of the managing directors and various executive directors heading departments in the city. My first slide spoke to a profile of the city, but it also has high levels of inequality. So our economy is not going as fast as it should. And we're still reeling from the effects of COVID-19. So we are collecting a lot less and we have a lot less resources to fund development. And because of high inequality, we also have social problems that come with that, such as crime. And within the internal environment, we also dealing with issues of corruption and so forth, and things like cyber and IT security. But for today, I would like to talk more about our response to climate change, because it's linked to water security, which is what we're meeting about today. So our climate action plan was developed by the city in response to climate change. And the lens through which the city approaches the issue, the question of climate change, is from social justice lenses, because the poorer bear the brunt of climate change. And so responding to climate change addresses the issues of poverty in the city, but also having a resilient economy, because as you shift to a low carbon economy, you attract investment. And if you want to be a progressive city on a global stage, you have to play in the space of clean tech. So climate change is very important for the city, but it's also important for international relations. So in terms of how we are approaching climate change, we have carbon neutrality and climate resilience goals. So in terms of carbon neutrality, we want to expand access to clean energy to make it affordable to those who are not connected to the grid. We want to enhance energy efficiency by leveraging from technology. The way we commute, we still have to make changes there. And then we dispose of our waste, because we're running out of landfill space. We also need to make our water utility, Joburg water, much more efficient in terms of water security, which falls under climate resilient city. We have to consider that the onus to use water sparingly doesn't only fall with government, but the users, such as industry and households, amongst others. So to be climate resilient, you also need a compact city. So climate resilient human settlement is important, and you need that infrastructure to adapt to floods, drought, which become much more common under a climate changing context. So of course, climate change has also brought about environmental health issues. So we also strive to have healthy communities. So I just wanted to end my presentation as I hand over to Mr. Mocke to ask the question of how can the water pool market replicate lessons from a successful Joburg food produce market to develop a model that's supported by 4FIR. So I'll hand over to Mr. Mocke. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rami. Thank you very much. We had a slight technical glitch. Your slides did not move, but that's fine. We'll place all the presentations on the SAIEE website. So that's fine, Rami. Thank you very much, and we'll introduce Rian Mocke. Let me take back the presentation. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jan. I'm going to introduce Jan now. Rami, if you mute your camera, your video, mute your video and audio. Let me introduce Jan Mocke. Welcome, Jan. Jan Mocke is independent consultant. He's also a qualified engineer. He's completed his master's at UNISA, and he joined IDC for a while and then moved on in the space of the agricultural sector, and eventually landed up as the chief operating officer at the Joburg market for about 7 years. And thereafter, Jan joined us. I met Jan at the board of the Joburg market, and he also served as chairman of the board of the Joburg market. Jan now works as an independent consultant on the development of fresh produce markets and agricultural projects. He played an instrumental role in the design and construction of the new Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce Market, introducing various leading industrial players and characteristics. Now, Jan is going to share with us his experiences in terms of the fresh produce market model and to transfer those learnings across to the proposed water pool market. So let me go across and make Jan the presenter. Jan, you are now the presenter, and I hand over to you. Perfect, you're set. Mute your audio, Jan. Your audio, unmute. That's all right. All a little bit nervous first time. That's okay. Right, we're getting there. Thank you. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, just go a bit louder. Very faint, Jan. Maybe you need to get that mic closer. Yeah, you're coming through much better.
Shall I just talk a little bit louder in the audience?
Okay, all right, we can do with that. Carry on.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm just going to.
No, Jan. Sorry, Jan. No, too faint. Maybe disconnect the mic. Just come naturally. Take the mic out. It's not working.
How is it now, Ben?
That can work. Try that.
Can I carry on like this?
Let's carry on like that. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, there's all sorts of funny things coming up here. Right, I'm going to look at the project from a Joburg market perspective. Prof, please stop me if the sound is totally inadequate. I'll try and talk a little bit louder. We have discussed a couple of times now the background to this whole study in terms of the Water Resource Council looking at the South African or the Southern African water trading pool, and it was decided to, as part of this exercise, look at the Joburg market. Question may be asked, why look at the Joburg market for this purpose? Now, there are a lot of similarities. For example, the Joburg market here in fresh produce, the water pool, we just look at the different results. being water. In addition to that, the Joburg market is a well-established organization which was established, is owned and is managed by government, which will be the same as with water. And this platform for the fresh produce has shown a lot of very significant advantages for the fresh produce industry. One of the important ones is that it contributed significantly to food security, in the sense that it makes available sufficient, affordable, quality, and nutritious food to the people in the area, the country, and actually the region as well. What it has also done is to encourage investment into projects, from farming projects to value-adding, distribution, all kinds of projects. It resulted in significant industry development. If you look, for example, at the farming industry, the industry has become developed into an internationally competitive industry, which is the reason why a lot of exports is taking place today from South Africa. If we stand for a moment with the citrus industry, the South African industry is the second biggest exporter in the world, the biggest in the southern hemisphere. In other words, in our winter period, South Africa is the biggest exporter. Similarly, the avocado industry has become a world player. Many avocado farmers entered into the macadamia industry and developed that industry. Today, the South African macadamia industry is by far the biggest in the world. And then also other products like apples, pears, grapes, the local industry is playing a leading role. Through this process, which was really encouraged by the fresh produce market as an important element of the value chain, a lot of employment opportunities was created. If you look at agriculture alone, it is one of the biggest employers, if not the biggest. And of course, down the line in the value chain, a lot more job opportunities have also been created. This platform also contributed significantly to economic development in the area. For example, by having this platform centrally available with a full range of vegetables and fruits, it might be possible for operators to procure what they needed in one place and go and sell it in their different target areas. That includes from small operators like informal workers to large organizations distributing food. It resulted in a lot of value-adding opportunities. If you look at the Joburg market alone, physically on site is a large canning factory, fresh cut facilities, and other value-adding opportunities which are being used over the market. And then there's also value-added services and inputs, including packaging material, chemicals, machinery that other people would supply to the industry. Because the industry is there and it is a strong and well-developed industry. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth into the Joburg market. The report covers a lot more detail, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to highlight some of the key issues. An important aspect at the Joburg market is really that it has survived the test of time. It's in existence now for 127 years. It is a financial success. In other words, the organization is profitable. It's paying significant taxes to government. And it is generating sufficient cash to reinvest in the market, to upgrade facilities, doing maintenance, all these kind of important things for a business. It's also a very stable business. And just to illustrate, you can look at that graph lower down. We show the moving average turnover figures over 12-month periods. You will see that there is also a trend line to show what happened over a longer period. This reflecting almost 20-year period. And it shows average annual growth of about 12.7%, which is significantly above the CPI inflation, which confirms that there is a real growth. And if you look at a similar graph reflecting volumes, it confirms that. But importantly, to look at this graph is there is never a very clear far deviation from the longer term trend. In other words, the business is very stable. It is an institution which is valued by all stakeholders, right from farmers, distributors, consumers buying there. It's also interesting when you speak to some of the mega farmers in the country producing fresh produce. They are quick to tell you that they would not be where they are if it wasn't for a fresh produce market. One recent example was Mr. Rami, who told an audience how he literally started off on the streets in Johannesburg. Then eventually got a job at the Joburg market selling produce for other farmers, on behalf of other farmers. So our industry worked. Then we decided to go farm and started producing carrots on a small piece of land, selling all of it through the Joburg market, and then over time increase his operations. Today he is by far the biggest carrot producer in the country and in Africa, and one of the biggest in the world. This market serves farmers irrespective of size. They all pay the same percentage to use the service, and they are treated in the same way. It is important to take note that this is an ideal platform for emerging small and new farmers who enter the industry and who still need to iron out a lot of issues on their operation. And in fact, I do not know how you would really get a small farmers to grow into a successful commercial farmer without this platform. It's really contributing significantly. Just to briefly look at the value proposition that the Joburg market offered to the industry. Produce is sent on consignment to the market. In other words, the produce remains the property of the farmer up to the point where it is bought by a buyer. Only then does it change hands. The market or the agent never owns the property. Another value, important value, which is added is price discovery, which takes place due to the fact that there are a whole big number of farmers offering their produce on the market, and thousands of buyers competing for this produce. Then depending on supply and demand, prices are discovered. These prices are not only used on the market itself. Many parties who transact in fresh produce off the market use the prices discovered on the market to guide their selling prices. The whole process is very transparent. In other words, a farmer would know exactly what the buyer is paying for his produce. The buyer would know exactly what the farmer gets for this process. And this is done by huge fixed service margins by those parties who offer a service in the value chain here. For example, the market itself will take a 5% commission on the value of all sales. And that is really to provide the platform, to maintain the platform. Also to provide the IT platform in which the transactions take place. To provide the cashiers to receive the money, cleaning services, security service, a whole bunch of services. The market agents collect a fixed 7.5% commission on the value of the service. And that is really to facilitate the trading, to actively do price discovery and to get the produce sold. The market is a very low risk platform in the sense that no buyer is allowed to conclude a transaction or remove any produce from the market unless he has paid in advance for this transaction. And then the money collected is paid over to the farmers within 7 days, which in the industry is actually very quick. And in fact, it's possible for the market to reduce this period even further. A big advantage is that all produce is sold. If a new farmer would enter the market and his quality is not up to scratch, for example, there may be blemishes on the skin, there will be buyers who look for a lower quality or lower priced product. There are also buyers who say, I'm going to process this product, maybe cut, slice, dice, and I'm going to take a peel off anyway. So it will be an opportunity for him to buy at a little bit lower price. But importantly, the farmer will see why he is getting a lower price than his competitors, and he would then have the opportunity to correct that situation going forward, and in the process improve the quality that he produce and offer on the market. This price fluctuation, price fluctuations, and a very important value to industry in the sense that signal shortages and oversupply situations on specific crops to the industry, and the industry then respond and say, maybe there's a shortage in cabbage, we need to produce more cabbage, and over time the higher supply will bring down the price and the market balance itself as well. Because all these transactions take place on the Joburg market platform, very valuable and accurate sales information is collected, which is then used by many of the various stakeholders for planning purposes. That is just a brief overview of the Joburg market. Then I just want to touch on a few areas where we see potential to apply the same principles on a water trading pool. One of these areas is to improve productivity. In other words, if we use an optimal platform for water, the resources can actually be put to use much more effectively. In other words, water can be put on a platform and users can bid per category, per industry as it is made available to the industry. And in that process, those users who can add the most value to the product would be willing to pay the highest price. And in that process, the most value can be extracted from the water. And it doesn't need to be only limited to price. It can also accommodate other factors like job creation, impact on environment, and so on, for the system to calculate a sort of consolidated value of a specific player, but to help with this process to get the water to go to the people who can add most value from it. It can then also act as a very effective way to discover price of water. And in that process, earn more revenue for the owners to develop further infrastructure. Another area where such a water trading pool can add significant value is in terms of process and efficiency. The effective and efficient allocations is of big value, we believe, because no one wants a situation where water is just running down the river, ending up in the sea without being utilized effectively. So how do you get around the situation that water sometimes is not used effectively for months, even years, because of that decision-making process? So what we're saying, if a transparent set of rules is developed for the trading of available water allocations, and that is then made available on a trading platform where everyone in that specific area or region can bid on this water, you can end up with a situation where the outcome of this trading process can be implemented immediately. And the allocations can be made without fear of being challenged, resulting in further delays. In that way, the process can be operated a lot more efficiently. Another useful outcome can be in terms of planning. If, for example, local authorities, where they have to quantify future water needs and plan to develop infrastructure, they can test their plans first by making the proposed new water availability or water facilities available, water services available on such a platform where people can say, you know, how much water would they need and what price would they be prepared to buy. And through a bidding process, you can determine what would be the optimum price that players would be willing to pay for this. In this way, for example, this local authority can decide on establish exactly what the need is, quantify the need, and then resize the planned development, make it bigger or smaller, depending on the interest in that proposed project. It could also be used as an instrument to encourage investment in the sector, in the water sector. For example, a private player can offer or propose a project which can be a dam or desalination plant or irrigation system, and make that available on the platform openly for bidding and see what the interest in that project would be and what the realistic revenue from that project could be, which would indicate to him what the size should be and also whether such a project would be viable. In terms of moving water from one area to another, you could, for example, look at the SAIEE region, and within this region there are areas and countries who have excess water, where they cannot hope to use all available water, while other countries live with a shortage of water. With such a training platform, this water can be made available on the training platform, and in the training process or bidding process, the most suitable buyer of the excess water can be identified. This process will discover the most appropriate price for this water to be paid, and as a consequence, the water scarce areas can relieve the pressure on them, and the countries with a lot of water will get a revenue from which they can then use to develop their infrastructure further. Then you may have even more water available to be sold in this process. Then just to summarize some of the achievables for such a trading platform. Just move that away. It's that you will have a more efficient utilization of the water, a more effective decision making, improved planning, and an incentivization instrument for private and public players in the industry to invest in water-related projects. And by having more water available, it would incentivize new industrial and agricultural projects, which will result in further economic development and job creation in the process. And just to conclude, there are various aspects we are convinced that where the Joburg market trading platform can be applied very successfully to a water trading pool model. The one big difference we foresee is that this platform can be virtual with rather than the physical platform that you have at the Joburg market, which is in fact an ideal situation because there's no need to invest into billions of rands in terms of a physical platform. So it's much easier to establish and much lower cost to maintain also. Such a world platform can encourage further water infrastructure development, which we all know is very necessary in many areas in SADC. The water trading platform can also result in better value extraction from whatever water is available. Water security can be improved and economic growth can be stimulated. Then just a couple of recommendations from this side of the study is that we actually look at developing a virtual auction-based trading platform which can serve a wide range of different water resource elements. We believe it's necessary to go and look at the available virtual trading platforms, and there are quite a number of them, from which further learnings can take place to develop the optimum solution for water. And then the platform can be utilized to unlock the vast untapped potential of the resources, and all the stakeholders can benefit, and in the process the water security in the region can be improved significantly. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction of virtual water, virtual trading. Thank you, Jan. I'm going to take back the presentation from you, and I'm going to introduce my colleagues from the Institute for Intelligent Systems. Jan, if you mute your video and audio. Thank you, Jan. Let me bring on my colleagues. Dr. Herman Myburgh, welcome, and I'm going to introduce to you Dr. Herman Myburgh. PhD in nutrition sciences from Northwest University, and he's very passionate about technology, and during his postdoctoral study he came across this modern technology, extended reality technologies, and he wants to use that to see how best he could address public health issues on the continent. He's a senior lecturer at the Institute, and he's got interest in public and environmental health, and he has set his sights in terms of growing new academic heights and being an active member at the African Nutrition Leadership Program. Thank you, Dr. Myburgh. Let me hand over to you to introduce to us the story from the Intelligent Institute. Over to you.
Thank you, Prof, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm just going to share my screen quickly, and then we're off.
Right, you're almost there. Just slideshow on your way.
Okay, can you see the slideshow?
And not yet, it's coming. Not yet. You are on video and your audio is clear. I think Jan's audio was disturbed by possibly load shedding affecting the telecoms network in the area where Jan resides. So maybe a thought next time is we should maybe, I don't know what we do, gather around a stable site or something like that.
Something like that. Can you now see my screen?
Not yet slideshow, not yet, yeah, Herman. Almost there. Almost there, just slideshow, perfect, you're there.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the opportunity to discuss modern technologies with you. From the Institute of Intelligent Systems, both myself, Herman Myburgh, and Dr. Uchwe Onkonkwo, we've worked out a conceptual model that can be implemented for water security in South Africa. But before we get to the model, we first need to take a step back and look at technology and how it came to where we are today. So it's generally believed that anatomically modern humans originated in Africa, more likely in the southern part of Africa, which is now South Africa. And that stems from our anthropological data that we've received, or that we discovered. From here, over millennia, humans started to migrate, and with the main drivers of this migration, it was food and water. And as this migration resulted in a varying diet, more fat sources were included, and more of your good fats, and especially your oceanic animals such as fish and mollusks, and that really improved the mental capacity of the human species. As civilizations grew, so did our need to ensure sustenance. We domesticated certain plants such as wheat, and that resulted in an increased food security. While managing water sources and the development of primitive irrigation systems, that further enhanced our crop yields. And as a result, sustenance farmers could begin to stockpile some of their produce. This is widely seen as the first industrial revolution. And since then, advancements such as the wheel, the use of domesticated animals, and this building of storing facilities, these were called the Agrarian era technologies. That's the first revolution, but we are now at the fourth one. So in between, civilizations grew, and so did the supply of adequate water and sanitation, the need of that. So wells were some of the first forms of water supply to the broader community, with some ancient cities such as Mohenjo-Daro building one single well for every 3 houses. And I think that is better water provision than in some rural towns in across Africa at present. The Greeks, however, were the real masters of water. They implemented the first sewage systems, the first filtration systems using ashes. They had closed pipes, flushing toilets, as well as pressurized showers and firefighting systems. And this remained fairly constant until recently. Now, with this increase in the needs of civilizations, we started depleting some of our resources. We didn't go about it in a sustainable manner. And that's where the United Nations developed 17 goals to be achieved by 2030. Now, at face value, it seems that only SDG 6 is associated with water. But in actual fact, water is the cornerstone of all 17 of these goals. One cannot achieve gender equality when women are tasked to fetch water from a faraway source, and that keeps them from their own self-development and schooling. Industry cannot waste water without the necessary repercussions being in place. And there will never exist peace for as long as water is a scarce resource. Water truly is our life force. However, with 2030 not being too far in the future, we still have a lot of work towards achieving these goals. That is where technology comes in. Technology can assist us in achieving sustainability, but we now find ourselves at a crossroads where we need to discuss whether profitability or sustainability is going to be the main drivers for us in the near future. And what we propose is that it could be both. You could be profitable and sustainable. And if we implement technologies in a sustainable manner, we can achieve a water market that is truly sustainable. So these technologies that came in the fourth industrial revolution encompasses a whole lot of different technologies, including artificial intelligence. And AI was first described in the 1950s already as the ability of a machine to trick a human into thinking that it is human. And we are seeing it increasingly more, whether it's when you ask Google how the weather is going to look like, or getting emails that plan your day from your email service. AI has become so enshrined in our daily works that we often forget that it's a computer that's managing us. In water management, AI is increasingly used to optimize the treatment processes. Furthermore, automation of water quality checks, even including microbiological visual analyses, ensure that constant monitoring can occur. The power of AI, however, lies in the ability to train algorithms on good quality data. In recent days, the evaporation rates was modeled using such historic data. This aided decision makers to ensure that they manage our water resources to the best of their ability. And much of these data can be collected using advanced sensors. Such sensors have also become a daily part of our lives. Modern cell phones are increasingly being equipped with more and more sensors, ranging from GPS to LiDAR. This augments our understanding of how people interact with technology. It adds a massive amount of data to the global data repository, which we can then algorithmically analyze and create optimized services. In water management, constantly monitoring sensors capable of relaying information about physicochemical properties of the water source are implemented across the United States and in many other countries as well. Some of these managing services report using over 400 such stations in a single United States. The combination of these sensors and AI resulted in a 50% reduction in workload of certain staff members. This enabled them to further work on more pertinent tasks that cannot be automated, freeing up a lot of man hours for investigations and making sure that water is well managed. While these sensor arrays gives us information at a local scale, using satellite technology gives us information at a global scale. And when combining these two methods, one can develop accurate models that achieves an accuracy level of above 97%. Now, we've got sensors and we've got AI, and if we give these technologies mobility, then we get autonomous vehicles that can go and sample and inspect where humans cannot safely compete. Such drones are used in finding cracks in dams or reservoirs. It's used to clean reservoirs without the need of emptying a reservoir or sending down a team of divers. So that has a massive cost implication. And it's also used to monitor algal blooms and invasive species, such as water hyacinths. Coupled with these autonomous vehicles, biotechnologies have proved successful in destroying invasive species such as water hyacinths. Furthermore, the use of genetically modified bacteria has been described capable of fermenting hyacinths into biofuels such as hydrogen. The advent of CRISPR technology, where we can now edit DNA in an organism, further enhances our ability to alter the genetic makeup of various problematic species. And where these autonomous vehicles find faults in infrastructure, we are starting to see more and more that 3D printing at a large scale is being used. It has even been proposed as a method of building infrastructure on Mars before sending the first astronauts to Mars. This process will be fully automated, and it can print with various materials and in a very optimized way, decreasing the costs and helping us to achieve our dream of building a base on Mars. So these are the technologies that we have available to us. There's many others as well. But that being said, we need to implement these technologies in a very sustainable manner and within the African context. And that's where my colleague, Dr. Uchwe, has developed a wonderful model that he'll be sharing with us now.
Thank you, Dr. Myburgh. Let me bring on Dr. Oshie. I'll take back the presentation. There we go. Dr. Ushi Chudi Okonwo. Dr. Ushi is with us at University of Johannesburg. He's a senior lecturer in the Institute of Intelligent Systems. He has lots of publications behind his name. He's very active in the IEEE and the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, in particular with their Globecom and Africa research journals. His current research interests include that, but not limited to wireless communications, molecular communications applied to advanced medicine, artificial intelligence, Internet of Everything, blockchain, extended reality, complex systems, systems biology, and signal processing. So you could see now it's all going to come together now. And Dr. Ushi is going to share with us, and I'm going to give him this stage. Dr. Ushi, welcome. And please share with us the conceptual model for a water pool market. Thank you. And over to you, sir. Thank you. If you put your webcam on, thank you. Right, you well on your way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me very well. So
Very
my
clear.
name is okay. I just had load shedding now, so I hope this goes on for a while.
Okay, no, thank you.
All right. So my name is Dr. Uchwe, so you can simply call me Uchwe. I'm with the Institute for Intelligent Systems, and this presentation, I had to go straight to this presentation. Now, I used to ask this question: if you get up and you don't see water, you want to drink water, you can't find water in your house, you can't find water anywhere, is it not possible that you can do anything to just get the water you need? And that is a big problem. And most of us think it is not really a challenge, but for people who are in this industry, they know it is a challenge. And people who come from rural areas know the challenge, the things they go through. When I was young, I know what we do to actually get water. So I think it has been a part of my own understanding, especially that's why most of my research are basically in those things that are consumer centric. Things like water, things like medicine, that is the way you go about treating ourselves. So here we developed a model. This is a generalized model of 4R. It's a 4R-driven solution for water security issues. And this model, if you look at this diagram, you can see virtually everything that is related to water production or water supply chain, from the source through the pool, assuming you have something like that, and then to the water treatment, or you can say water production facility, through storage, distribution, consumption, and then, of course, water reuse treatment. And with that, it depends on what you treat, the quality of your output in water treatment. Then you decide whether to pull it back into the cycle or you send it to the sewage point. So this is a generalized model, and all these things are supposed to be connected to FRR management, water management solution or system, a platform. But before we do that, we kind of, it is quite understanding that each of this model, they have their own problems. The water production or the treatment point has a problem, the storage has a problem, distribution problem, even consumption, and of course, the water reuse and treatment, the water reuse treatment. So in this case, what we decide to do is to handle each of these models differently. That is a problem solution. And then when we do that, we'll be able to say, okay, we have optimized the modules that make up this whole system. And based on that optimization, you can now make a decision, because eventually you find out that everything bothers, or most of these the challenges we have here, you can still bother a lot on the source of water. That is where the water pool and the water trading thing comes in. So now, if we start with the water production, you can say water treatment, but here we use the term production. The water production we have here, we have, I need to minimize this so that I'll be able to. In the water production, we have a bunch of water sources globally. It could be your storm water, it could be your waste water, the groundwater, the surface water, and in some cases, especially people who live in colder region, you can have the icebergs and the glacial water. These are typically natural sources of water, let's say. So what we normally do is we collect this water, depending on the one that is available. Of course, we should have the right to collect some of this water. So when you collect this water, then of course you start sending it treated and then send it to the storage facility. The challenges we have here is typically that given a particular quantity, given a particular quality of water, what do we get at the output? That is what this facility is all about. So in some cases, some of the facilities for the production of this water, some of them are not very efficient. That is to treat this water, the treatment. Most of them are not very efficient. And because of that, we need an efficient system that will be able to treat this water, and of course, a cost-effective system. So this is where the fourth industrial revolution comes in, or the fourth industrial revolution is technologies. For me, I call them technologies. Not really about the fourth industrial revolution is a name, it's like a movement. But this movement is engineered by a bunch of technologies. Among them include this sensor network, big data, intelligent, artificial intelligence systems, and then blockchain, nanotechnology. And of course, automation and robotics, and then 3D printing, and a whole lot of others. And of course, we have the 5G, 6G, because everything in fourth industrial revolution must ride on the 5G, 6G, and whichever one that comes later. Without 5G, without 6G, there is nothing like fourth industrial revolution. That is the reality. So I didn't mention the 5G and co here because I have this understanding that that is the basis of what we're doing here, because everything must ride on them, on these technologies like 5G, 6G, and co. So we call them advanced communication technologies. So in this case, what we're going to do here, to do what? To make sure that we'll have good quality of water source, and of course the quantity. These are very crucial. So what we do is to provide sensor network, deploy sensors in various areas. So we obtain real-time data of sensors. The sensors will obtain data of what is happening around. Of course, the quality of every particular water source, the quantity, and then we could also take some data from the big data bank. From the big data bank, all these things will be taken through the Internet of Everything, and then we'll do the data analytics using artificial intelligence systems. Now, there is another thing here, that is automation. Automation can be used. Automation can be used to make sure that there is a little human involvement here. So the artificial intelligence system will come out with the result based on this and make a decision that you have to go for this water at this period. Maybe from January to March, you have to do this. Then you can move to surface water, from surface water to groundwater, make this decision on its own in an automated manner. Then nanotechnology, and this particular technology, I've been working on nanotechnology since 2018. And there is something that is very, very important to say here. It is a very, very crucial technology that will change a lot of things. I mean, virtually everything. So this type of technology is very, very important in the sense that here you can use it right here at the facility. You can use it to have a facility that will have almost zero maintenance over its life cycle. So you can imagine having a facility that you can only probably maintain once in 100 years. This will eventually come to pass. This is very, very possible. So after that, we go to the storage system. Here again, most of this technology come into play because we have problems with leakage. The ideal thing is that the quantity and quality of water that gets into this facility should be at least the quantity of water that gets out of it, and the quality should be the same or better. This is the model we have up here. So in this case, we again deploy, very importantly, nanotechnology. Nanotechnology, what nanotechnology will do here is the type of materials used to design this, the type of material used to design the storage facility. These are materials that will be very resilient to any form of leak. And then as well, some of these materials will be able to make sure that the quality of water inside it will be the same as long as it stays there, even if it stays 50 years without being removed. So in this case, we'll have to have a system. There are a bunch of what we call nanomachines or nanomaterials that can be used here, although some of them are in developing stage at this moment. So that would be, and then if I go a little bit back again, in the case of stormwater, I think this is what most of us have to start looking at. The stormwater, sometimes I imagine, today there's rain around my area. If every drop of water that falls from the sky could be collected, I think we will have so much result. But one of the problems is the material we use to collect it. If every roof can collect water, and store it efficiently, collect water efficiently and store it without rust, then I think we will have some of these problems really addressed. And the nanotechnology has the potential to do it because there are nanomaterials that are very, very resilient to a corrosion, that are resilient to a whole lot of them, that are very, very strong. They can last for years without having to undergo any chemical reaction that will cause rust or something like that. So in this case here, we'll use the same technology, nanotechnology, to build some of this. And then the sensor network can be used there. The sensor network will tell us the quantity and quality of water at every point in time. If, for instance, the quantity of water we pump in is not the same quantity that we're getting out and whatever that remains, then we know there is a problem. This will give us real-time data that can help us make the right decision. Now, another one is when from there, the water flows into the distribution system. And in this distribution system, again, we want to make sure that the quality of water and of course the cost of this distribution is such that whoever that is going to pay for it, basically the consumers, will be able to handle that. And in this case, sensor network resurfaces again. What the sensor network will do is we know the problem of pipe busting, leakage, and everywhere. First of all, using nanotechnology to address the issue of developing and fabricating pipes will help a lot because we'll have pipes that will never burst. They won't burst no matter, even at very high pressure, they won't. We'll have such things. Nanotechnology can offer that. And then you can as well use even what we have now, we can use sensors, even if we can't get to the nanotechnology importance here. We can go for sensors. These sensors could be placed at strategic places along the pipeline. And what they will do is we collect their data. Of course, we have a calibration. So when you collect the data on real-time basis, they will always be telling you, this will be automated, of course, using artificial intelligence system. And then it will tell you that there is a problem. It will, at any time, it will tell you the problem. Not to when people call you and report that there is a busted pipe here. No, you will know from the control station. So, and then with that, you can make decisions on types of repair. Of course, we can as well, when things get to advance, we can start thinking about robotics. Robots that can go through this pipe from the beginning of this pipe to the end on its own and do any repair as they come out. These are things we will eventually see in this whole scenario and a whole lot of other applications. So after that, we can go to the consumer. This is the point where the demand comes from. This is the point that decide this market and decide this whole exercise. Without, if they do, the consumers do not demand anything, then you don't supply anything. So everything is centered around these people. Now, what do we want at the output of this whole system? To have good quality of water, good quantity, the desired quantity or demanded quantity of water, and then at a minimum cost for the users. And to provide that solution, we again look at sensor network. Sensor network is becoming very pervasive, so it is so virtually in everything with artificial intelligence around it. So here we will have, instead of having ordinary meter, we'll then have smart meter. Not only will the meters be smart, they will be IoT enabled in the sense that they will collect data. So in terms of payment, your billing will be coming every second. So you're getting billing. Of course, they won't send it to you, but you can always access it. You can always access it if you get on, if this whole system could get on a blockchain. If you can get on a blockchain, then you can always access how much you have, how much you are owing. And then another thing is the issue of responsible water use. Responsible water use. Because most of the time, when you talk about waste, this is all about waste. I remember I did my PhD in Malaysia. So I remember in those days when I was there, we have a limit in terms of electricity, in terms of water. There is an amount you don't get if you don't use a certain amount of electricity or a certain amount of water, then you don't pay. Then, for instance, in electricity, if you don't use up to about 1,000, let's say 1,000 rand, or less than that, let's 500 or 800 to 1,000 rand. If you don't use up to that or something like that, then you do not pay. So your bill will come as a negative. So they're encouraging people not to use so much electricity so that you don't pay. So we could have something like an incentive system built on blockchain where users will be able to get some incentive. It could be some token points that they can use to make purchase somewhere. If they do not, so this is where the smart meter and IoT enabled meters come in. So we'll be able to have a responsible use of water. So this can be implemented efficiently on blockchain. Then we go to the treatment. This is another important facility, the treatment. And most of the treatment facilities we have across the globe are not very efficient. They're not very efficient in the sense that we still have a lot of sludge producing most of the treatment. And sludge are basically a bunch of chemical composites. So if we get on to consider things like nanotechnology here comes into play because it could help in terms of degrading this material. Because what nanotechnology does is it considers everything at the nanoscale, at the subatomic scale, not even at the atomic scale, at the subatomic scale. So at the subatomic scale, a lot of things changes. Every human being is made up of atom cells, then atoms down to subatomic. So anything you change there will change everything about that system. So that is why, for instance, if you at the nanoscale, the color of gold is not that gold, it's red. At the nanoscale, the color of gold is red. So all these things, when you start changing some of these materials at this level, they could help provide us with a more efficient waste water management system. So, and that is it. Now, if assuming we're able to provide this for all these modules in the entire water supply chain facility, now we come to the point of, yes, we have been able to address our challenges. What do we still have? We still have some challenges. The challenges here is that we do not have constant supply of water. That is where the water market comes in. We do not have a constant supply that will feed a particular demand. So there are existing water markets in the United States and in Australia, particularly. However, there is an issue. The issue in the kind of the way some of these markets have been run over the years. People came up with, oh, there is still a problem with this type of market, and that is why it has not been widely adopted by many people. One of these downsides include insufficient data availability, and then data asymmetry and the high cost of running this market. So in the terms of data and insufficient data availability, here, for instance, if we want to make a decision on sourcing water from a particular person, a particular entity, most of these things are when the problem of water is already there. So there is no way of predicting that this is going to happen probably in the next couple of years, or 90% or next couple of months, or next week. We are very sure, 90% sure, or 99% sure that there will be water. Based on the water demand over the time, our artificial intelligence system should be able to tell us that no, there will be water scarcity by next 3 weeks or next 4 weeks. So we'll start making arrangements on what to do. So we do not have such things. And then data asymmetry, the data asymmetry in the sense that some people in the market believe that others get more information and they act better, so they don't feel that the market is, they feel the market is biased. There is no equality in the market. And then, of course, the cost of running the market, infrastructure cost, and the other costs that are associated with connecting buyers and the seller. So these are one of the issues that, some of the issues that are raised by people who have been observing this market, the contemporary market. So here we try to say bring in the fourth industrial revolution and its enabling technologies to see if we can solve some of these problems. And here we consider having a pool. Of course, this is what it is about, a pool. And here the concept of pool means a point. It could be virtual pool, it could be physical pool, where this is like an interface between whoever or any unit that is demanding for this water, the interface between you and the rest of the people in the business platform. So for instance, this could be private or public enterprise. And I believe that this model and that will help people, even the private sector, to start participating in this whole thing. So let's say we have up to 6 of them or 7 of them, and this is the main guy here who wants to get water from them. So this, of course, these people must have the right for water right and the permission. So using the fourth industrial revolution here, we bring in automation. Automation is like we have a system at this interface that automatically, makes the choice for us without us being the water source, how we will get this water, where we pull the water from. So this is what automation will do for us. And this, of course, automation has to be connected to an intelligence system that will make that decision. So automation is simply actuating whatever decision that is made. So, and then we will need big data here. This big data will be like the data we collect from all of in fact, the data we collect from the sites of the source of water. So it will not be only like this guy is collecting data, this guy is collecting, every one of them will be collecting data, and they will be in the cloud in a typical database. Now anybody can source it. Anybody in this group can source this and be able to know what is the weather condition, what is the hydrological data, any form of hydrological data will be made available at the database. And then some other ones that you can pull from other databases across the world. So we'll regard them as a big data system, and then you can use that. And of course, you will have to need a blockchain. The blockchain is a very important technology. And among all this, it is quite easier to implement. And that's probably why it is so versatile. It is basically a bunch of codes. So there are the hardwares are actually existing. So you can use a computer and stuff like that to do that. So you need it here. And then, of course, to enable us to execute smart contracts. So everything here will be automated. Everything here will be automated. You don't need humans. So the cost of running this will reduce because you don't need human intervention in doing this. So the moment you need anything, you just go to on the platform and then click. If you click on anything, the contract is executed. Your own part of the contract is executed. And if the other person picks it up, then the whole contract, the eventual contract for the other side will be executed, and money is exchanged and stuff like that, and goods as well. So this is a conceptual model of this water trading or market platform. We assume that over here you have the people who are this will be all sellers. Somewhere at the left, my left, and then this is somebody that wants to buy. So here we will have information on a platform. This is like maybe a mobile app, or even if it is a fixed app, not even a mobile app. Now, in this case, everyone will be able to have access to the, if you want to sell, if you want to buy, you will have the access to the information about the seller's water quantity potential, the quality of the water, the source and identification. Every water will be identified. Every water will have a source. So that we know the source of every water. If there anything happens, you will actually know how to address it. And then the production process information. What production process are you using? What technology are you using? Every source using to produce a particular water, so that you'll be able to use that to kind of evaluate how much you're going to pay. And of course, other information like the hydrological information and geographical information, the water price, this price you're selling. So when, based on the demand and then the supply, if everything agrees, then the smart contract will be executed. And you get your water, and this other guy get paid without having anybody running. That is why we have to build this on blockchain. And so with this blockchain doing this, the cost of running this business will be very, very low. It will address the cost, and then because of this information right here, everybody, it is available to everybody. The issue of information asymmetry will not be there. Then being able to collect enough information to make decisions in this platform will address the challenges of insufficiency of information for this decision. So in terms of our recommendation, this is our recommendation. Recommendation is that we have made a desktop study. There is a way to move things from desktop to development, actual physical development. And this is one of the, we can kind of categorize it into 3 or 4 in this case. So the initial stage is where we make this decision as to what is, based on what is available to us in terms of technology, in terms of material, how can we get on to improve the system? So these are kind of textbook research and paper research and stuff like that. After that, we go to the virtual prototyping. In most virtual prototyping is more modern, because initially after this stage, people just go straight to the physical prototype. But with advancement in computer and computing, it is quite easier now to do virtual prototyping. Virtual prototyping, what you do is to replicate what you want in a software form. That is, you run the simulation and you're able to know that you can change your parameters at will without incurring any cost. So you change parameters and see how your system will perform if you produce it physically. So after that, we can go to physical production of the prototype. And here, our suggestion is that we'll have a kind of, we cannot go into the production plants, go to the storage facilities to start changing things. No, we'll have to have a model, a physical model that replicates exactly what is there, that replicates the virtual prototype as well. And then use that, develop that model, and then you can say, okay, this model is working. Based on the fact that it is working at this stage, we can now move it to deploy it to the where the practical sites are. So with that, we'll come to the end of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Uchwe. Thank you very much. Certainly an excellent presentation and taking us a step forward in terms of the conceptual planning. Colleagues, we come to the end and we're now at the point where we'll take questions. And I do have a few questions that have been posted on the chat. So let me start with the questions that we have on hand already. We've got, and colleagues, please post your questions on the questions box, then we'll be able to pick it up. We've got a question here from Mr. Shlamini. He wants to know the difference between a competitive market and a bilateral market. Maybe I should give that to Mziyanda. Mziyanda, would you like to come on board and give us an answer there? The difference between a competitive market and a bilateral market. Are you there, Mziyanda?
Yes, Professor, I can provide an answer.
Yeah, put your webcam on and then you could speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The question pertains to the difference between a bilateral and a competitive market.
Yeah, yes, Mziyanda? No, your audio's gone off. We missed your audio a bit, Mziyanda. If you could just repeat for us.
So the difference between a bilateral contract and the competitive market is that when a bilateral contract is a contract between two utilities, for example, to sell each other electricity at agreed prices, agreed volumes, agreed terms of payments, and agreed duration of the contract. That's typically between two utilities coming together and agreeing. While the competitive market that we run at the SAPP Coordination Center is more of a spot market for electricity, where members would log into an electronic platform and put in their offers to sell electricity at the desired prices, and also their bids to buy electricity at desired prices. And the algorithm in the system would basically match the demand and supply curve to come up with an equilibrium price of electricity. And those who match at that point will then have bought and sold electricity, and us as the coordination center will run the clearing and will pay the invoice to those who sold and recover the funds to those from those who bought the electricity. More like a stock exchange, a financial stock exchange, but this one is our exchange. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Mziyanda. Thank you. Let's take another question from Frans van Neergen. Frans has posted a question. Seawater desalination plants of 100 million liters a day to 500 million liters a day should be built along the coastline, like in Cape Town and Port Elizabeth. This will alleviate the long-term stabilization of bulk water supply by the Department of Water and Sanitation. Now, this will also allow more water from inland and dams to be used to boost the economy, which is very true. To what extent is this sustainable solution being seriously planned and implemented? Very good question, Frans. So again, a need for a market model to bring forward this particular idea. Maybe Jan Mocke, you want to comment on that as a market model participant? Unmute your video and audio.
Sorry, Peter, I missed out somewhere. I'm trying to play around here with the settings to see if I can fix up my audio quality. And in the process,
okay, maybe
I missed some of the sound, so sorry about that. If you can maybe just tell me what you want me to respond to.
Okay. Francis, can you take that question?
Yes.
If you take off your video and audio, come on.
Yes,
Thank you, Francis.
Yes. Yes, if I can repeat, the question is saying that the consideration of desalination plants all along the coastlines, not all the way surrounding. If we are talking of Southern Africa, then it's all the coastlines from Pemba in Mozambique to north of Luanda in Angola in the Atlantic Ocean. I think it's a very good idea that has to be taken in the modeling process, because what we are saying is the water pool must be able to identify all the sources of water, and we had concepts of virtual water and all sorts of concepts surrounding water. So wherever water is, if it's in rivers, it requires maybe minimum treatment. If it's in the oceans, it requires obviously substantive treatment to get it to potable state. Now, all those sources have to be considered in a water pool model. So it is indeed a very useful question that will be taken into consideration as the water pool model is developed.
Thank you for that. Let me take another question, and this one is from Zambia. I've got Brian Mutwali from Sibol Electric Zambia Limited. Brian wants to know, as an energy manager, how do some of us who are independent, and where do we get resources to research? Maybe Francis, if you could also answer that while you're on the stage. Brian wants to know, how does he participate as an independent contractor, consultant, industrialist in Zambia to get access to resources and to research?
Okay, the issue of, I'm assuming then that the research aspect is with respect to the energy since the attendee is the questioner is from the energy space, and maybe in particular electrical energy, which will be the role of the Southern African Power Pool. The Southern African Power Pool has a website where these questions can be directed to. The Southern African Power Pool Coordination Center is located in Harare, and the details of their contact details are on the website as well. And then I think when these issues, the questions are raised, they can be answered by the Southern African Power Pool Coordination Center in Harare. I don't know if that is sufficient to answer the question.
Yeah, and thank you. And maybe if Brian also wants to participate with the research on hand, water security driven by IR 4.0, Brian Mutwali in Zambia, you're more than welcome to join our team at the University of Johannesburg, and also join the membership at Southern African Power Pool and at the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers. And you'll get all our contact details, and we welcome your participation. Let me take the next one, and this is a comment from Ashwin Seetal. He's left for a meeting at 1 o'clock, but he posted these thoughts. Just a few comments. Thank you for organizing the event, particularly lessons from SAPP and Joburg market experiences. The presentations were very insightful and provided an alternative perspective, even though a number of issues have been examined in the water sector over many years. Water and electricity fundamentally differ. One can be generated. The other is a natural resource essential for all living entities. So I think Ashwin has definitely appreciated your presentations, colleague, and he says thank you. And I guess he'll come back and continue his conversation with us. Frans van Niergen has also posted a comment. Excellent presentations and presenters, first class work. Thank you from France to the presenters and on your presentations. Those are the only questions I have on the chat. Okay, if any other colleagues have questions that they want to pose, please, amongst yourselves, presenters, if you want to pose a question or two, please feel free. We have a bit of time on hand, and we're on schedule. Thank you. I think going forward, the next steps would be for us to polish up the final desktop study report, bring the various parts together and absorb the learnings that we could transfer to the Water Research Commission in terms of their continued work and investigations. Our stakeholder engagement will continue. This is one of the first dry runs we've had with the Institute membership, and we would also like to take forward a deeper conversation with the Department of Water and Sanitation, as they are the custodians entrusted with the national water security. We'll also take forward the conversation with our colleagues at SADC, the Infrastructure Command in Gaborone. They are also entrusted with the regional mandate to ensure water security. We'll also share our conversations with the Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Our Vice Chancellor at University of Johannesburg is the Deputy Chairman, supporting Chairman President Ramaphosa. So we will certainly take a condensed version of the presentations to Vice Chancellor, and I'll invite my colleagues who presented today to make a condensed version that we'll take forward and present to the Deputy Chairman of the Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And we'll see best how we could get further traction in terms of growing this conversation on the conceptual model of big data, markets, and cash flows. We'll also extend the conversation to our colleagues in the voluntary association space, the South African Academy of Engineers, South African Institute of Civil Engineers, South African Institute of Mechanical Engineers. They all have close relationship with water and water-related infrastructure, and we'd like to see them also join us in this building of the conceptual model going forward. With no further questions that are available and posted, maybe it's time that we bring the webinar to a close. And I'll check again once more for questions. I don't see any more new questions on the webinar. There's also a comment from Mr. Shlamini, Simasi Shlamini. He says, thank you for the event, great presentations. So colleagues, your work has been well received. Let us assure all the participants and the attendees, we'll post all the presentations on the SAIEE website, and we will make available the conversation to continue into the future. With that, let me say thank you, and thank you firstly to our webinar host, Mings Averbos, and the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, represented by Mrs. Prudence Madiba. Thank you to the sponsors to the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, Rosatom. We say thank you for your support, and may I take the opportunity of also wishing all the members at Rosatom happy Russian New Year. I believe it's the Russian New Year, and most of the staff are on annual recess. So thank you for your support and your attendance and your sponsorship. To my colleagues that supported us on this assignment, first class work, much appreciated. Thank you very much. Let us close the webinar now, and take care and be safe going forward. And we look forward to a continued conversation on this chapter on water security and Industrial Revolution 4.0. So colleagues, with that, let me say goodbye and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Bye-bye.